I love talking to 3-5 profiles. So much learning by living. Today, my guest and I are talking about everything from writing books to what every projector needs to master to stay sane and successful, including soundboarding and play. We chat about how environmental authority works in real life. We get into how to soundboard without being steered, letting the right space reflect truth back, and why projector play isn't a reward that comes after work. It's the switch that turns our magnetism back on. Whether you're a projector feeling unseen or anyone stuck or speaking with someone else's voice in your throat, you need this one. Take a breath. Today's guest is a right angle cross of the four ways, so don't be surprised if something in you pivots by the end of this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to Real Human Design Stories, where guests share their powerful personal stories of transformation through human design. I'm Kathy Bashanko, an intuitive human design mentor and guide to radical self-trust. Join us as we explore how your human design experiment can truly change your life. Hi there. Today I'm joined by Laura Michelle Wolff, a 3-5 mental projector, right angle cross of the four ways. Laura Michelle is a ghostwriter, full-service book publisher, and a human design specialist who helps you publish a nonfiction book that really sounds like you. She brings interviewing skills from her FBI and forensic background together with human design to release your authentic voice. She's also a professional psychic medium. She has been in her human design experiment since 2017 and is about to release her new book, Designed to Captivate. Find your authentic voice through human design. And I was actually referred to Laura Michelle because I'm exploring the possibilities of writing my own book. I had such a lovely chat with Laura Michelle that I was like, I need you on my podcast. And so here we are. I mean, that was just last week. This happened pretty fast. So, yeah. So one, I want to welcome you. I want to say, it's so funny. I felt so connected with you. So once it was all, we were done chatting, I was like, I've got to see her chart. So I went and ran your chart because I get that info for the podcast, right? Yeah. You have my hanging gate too. I was like, oh. It's more than just that. I have the hanging gate 14 on my undefined sacral, my conscious.
Oh, okay.
And so it loves that gate too. But we have that in the transits right now. So I've got doubly in receiving today. Anyway, so welcome. And I'd love for you to just start out by letting our guests know the intro, like your kind of human design origin story.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I will talk about human design anytime, anywhere, airports, grocery stores. I don't care where I'm at. But I found human design. Someone had mentioned it to me a couple of times in 2016 and early 2017. I was like, you know what? I've been a therapist. I've been a social worker. The last thing I need is another personality system to tell me who I am. I was big into astrology, still am. I was like, no. But I was in business at the time online doing coaching, and my business just was tanking. It never really got off the ground. It just got worse. I was paying all these coaches to learn marketing stuff. I was reading every book I could get my hands on. Because I didn't have a business background. I didn't know what I was doing at all. In 3-5 style, I just was like, hey, let me try this. So toward the end of 2017, I was like, I'm going to have to go back to social work or something. I'm not going to make it. And I was really sad about it. I don't remember, I probably was Googling something, found Karen Curry Parker, who's Dr. Karen Parker now. But at the time, I was like, all right, I've got nothing to lose. Let me just jump into this and see. And when I got the chart and bought her level 1 course, I think 1 and 2 were like a package deal, but I just cried and cried and cried and cried because I felt like someone had suddenly told me that I wasn't wrong, I wasn't a screw up, that I was not doing things wrong, in that sense of you're a failure. I was doing things wrong in the sense that they're opposite to my nature. So everything that I was doing was opposite to the way a projector is supposed to work. I still was at that. And once I stopped crying, I was like, okay, well, I have nothing to lose. It's this or me going back to government work. So I just trashed everything and stopped talking, stopped really posting very much. I started sharing with a little call to action at the bottom. I stopped my email list. I dropped everything, moved myself back into sort of like what I was teaching was core desired feeling work that Danielle Laporte put out many years ago. I was like, well, let me just really amp this up too. Sit in my body, get clear on what I want to feel, and then write from there and see what happens. I'm not kidding. Within less than a week, I started booking sessions again. Things started flowing again. From there, as long as I stayed in that space, because I would slip out, but as long as I stayed in that space, I would book. And one time that I really remember was in 2022. I was launching a new course called Less Hustle, More Human Design for entrepreneurs. But my daughter was getting married, so I didn't really have time to do it right, air quote right. So because I was going to a wedding and then I went to Savannah, Georgia, sat on the beach for a couple of days. I sold more during that time than any other time prior to that. Just playing. I discovered pretty quickly that I didn't know how to play. Everything I was researching was saying, if you're miserable, go play. If nothing's working, go play. And I was like, well, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do it. I'm a Capricorn rising, a Scorpio sun. I'm intense. I love to work. I love to overwork. Definitely am on the workaholic side of things because I generally am doing work that I enjoy. So I had to teach myself to go out in the woods. I was living in North Georgia, literally in the woods at the time, and was like, you're just going to have to put all this down, go for a hike or go sit by the creek. And I felt terrible doing that. That's when I understood conditioning from having been a therapist, but I don't think I had viscerally felt what conditioning meant for me. It meant that I couldn't go sit by the creek on a beautiful day in the beautiful woodland and enjoy it. I sat there and I felt guilty for being there. I felt like, okay, well, tick, tick, I'll give myself 15 minutes to sit by the creek. Then I should go in, develop some sort of sales page or do something work related. And it took me a long time to get over that. Sometimes I still will struggle with that. But that one piece of my human design made all the difference, continues to make all the difference in my income, in my client base.
So the part about playing, is that what you're saying?
Playing. Yeah. Yeah, because I want to do the concept of just sitting back and guiding or surrendering or any of that felt very disempowering to me because from the beginning of my career, I always worked in male dominant fields. I started as an emergency medical technician. Even as a social worker, I worked hand in hand with law enforcement. I did a lot of training with the FBI. I was in investigative role, very left brain. Mm-hmm. So also was an artist, I did portrait art and things like that, but that was more of it felt frivolous to me. It was like something I did. I made a little money at it. I didn't take it serious because it didn't count in my head. The only thing that counted was numbers and metrics and money as proof of success and proof of worth. My ego center or resource center is completely open. I think it's completely open. The will center. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I really struggled with the conditioning around if I'm not working and working hard, if I can't demonstrate success through finance, then I have no worth. I'm worthless. I'm not contributing. I'm not a successful professional. Because I had a lot of my identity tied up in being very professional, very serious. And all of those things were really devastating to me when I was made that flip from working for someone else to working for myself. And if I hadn't found human design, I definitely wouldn't be in business now because I was doing everything opposite. I was also getting physically sick. Part of that was the unholy levels of mold and mildew that are in Georgia in general. I had lived in Colorado for 25 years, so mold was like, what's this? And
Right, so dry there compared to here. I'm in North Georgia also, for those listening who don't know. Where were you? What creek were you by? What area was that?
Salisbury. I lived in Ellijay, in between Ellijay and Chatsworth.
Okay.
So off of a little trail right on a creek. I mean, the house was built up high and flooded frequently. You have to drive through a creek to get to the house. Absolutely gorgeous.
That's very rural Georgia, definitely.
Very rural. Yeah. Not the greatest place for me, but very beautiful.
I'm in suburban Georgia. I'm about 45 minutes north of Atlanta in an area called Cumming that's just north of Alpharetta. So, which has changed a lot. It was much closer to that rural environment when we moved here 20 years ago, but now it's become much more of that like upbeat suburban thing. But yeah, there's definitely, I know that people always talk about allergies in the spring, but mine tend to be the worst in the fall because of all the leaf mold here.
Oh,
yes. Leaf mold.
Tons.
Yeah, I've been pretty good this year, knock on wood. I think that there's an energetics to our allergies as well, and that as we release some of that stuff. So, okay, I'm can relate to so much you say about finding out you're a projector. Although my design could not be more opposite than yours, because I am a all motors projector other than the sacral. I have 3 defined motors. My will has every gate defined, and then it's defined through the 2644 channel to my spleen. Okay. And so I have emotional authority connected to my root. So I've got a lot of much more definition, more consistently inconsistent energy access, right? So it's very different. And I have a completely open ajna and an undefined head. But the only thing we have in common as far as definition is we both have defined throats. And so it's interesting because yours is connected to the head and the ajna, which that does not really travel to the throat, even though there's a channel there that has to be pulled out of you by other people's engines and motors, because there is no motor that connects the head and ajna to the throat. So, and mine is connected to my identity center, which acts as its own little island in my triple split definition. I have the channel 1A, the channel of contribution. And so I often talk from a place of my contribution. But again, we both have defined throats that need some kind of invitation to draw things out in a way that is going to feel right, aligned. So I'm wondering, it's interesting to me that you have written this book that's all about that one center that we share, the common definition. And so I know this is jumping ahead. Maybe
that's okay.
Create that path. Maybe if you can kind of talk about the path that led you to writing that book. Like, where'd you go after you found out about all this stuff about yourself?
Once I really dug into my chart, I went as far as I could go with Karen, and then I worked for her for 3 years, and I took every course ever I could get my hands on. I also explored other teachers, and then I added the gene keys, which I think is a beautiful, more contemplative way to understand your gates. And so during that time, I discovered that it was very hard for me to understand the authority, mental authority it didn't make sense to me because I feel confused a lot. But
It's
I
the
have
most challenging, I think, of all the authorities to
yes.
understand. I mean, I
Yeah, it's
don't, as a
really hard.
student, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as a
Yes, no.
student learning about the authorities, I literally almost immediately had to talk to mental projectors who had been
Yeah.
working with it for a while and
Yeah.
understand. So, yeah.
It took me years. And then I would think I was making decisions based on my authority, but then they would play out. And I was like, okay, no, I wasn't, because I was I'm all open. I'm just all open space below the neck,
So,
So
for those listening who
yeah,
don't know what the heck we're talking about,
yeah.
mental projector has what's referred to as no inner authority. It is an outer authority, but it is still a process for you because it's this. Well, if you want to explain how it's worked for you, and then
What has worked for me is very much it. So what was difficult in the beginning was finding someone I could soundboard with that wouldn't influence or try to jump. Even when I gave people instructions like, please say nothing. I just need to talk this out loud. I just want to hear myself ramble. Please don't say anything. They couldn't control their face. And any flicker of facial expression would be like, done, done. We're not going to go any further. So I learned to talk to a voice recorder. I started utilizing my cats as four-legged therapists, talking to them. I talked to the trees. I would just talk out loud in the car. And so over time, I figured out that I didn't necessarily need to talk to another person. Then I started recommending that for my clients who need to talk things out. Talk. It doesn't matter where you talk. If talking to people's not working, don't talk to people. Talk. And it took me years to find out that now my sister does this for Projector. She holds like Projector soundboarding sessions because she has the best poker face ever. She keeps it completely flat. She doesn't interrupt. She never asks questions. And so what I know now as a mental projector, that when I am externalizing the energy, making it outer and environmental, it comes back to me as an internal sensation. So before I started the publishing company, I've had it for a year, but quit my job, launched full force in April. I was super scared to do that. And so I talked her ears off, really. But I noticed that when I was saying a worry or a concern, it would sound like a lie. If I said, that's a beautiful white jacket you're wearing, well, that's clearly false. I would feel the falseness of what I was saying, because I would say, what if I run out? What if I don't get anyone? What if what if no one ever, all this stuff? Then I would say to her, I can hear myself lying. I can hear my mind telling scary stories to keep me safe, to maybe don't go down this path. Maybe something horrible is let's not do this at all. Let's go ask Karen if we can have our job back. Let's just not, do any of this. So now I know that when I'm talking, I hear it as a lie. I feel it as a sensation in my ears, in my upper body. It's like, no, come on. That's not even true. But it took that long. It's so subtle. And it really requires you to know your everyday baseline, that you can feel when you're saying something that doesn't match. The dissonance is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes. Can I give some
Absolutely.
feedback?
Yeah.
Because I do believe that every projector has a bit of a need for soundboarding, right? We want to
Yes,
express
absolutely.
I feel like, and I don't really know how it compares to other people. I feel like I have a really strong need for it because of the way my splits operate. Because I have that 1/8. So that part of me, my throat, thinks I'm a self-projected projector. Right? It does not talk to my spleen, my will, my solar plexus, and my root, which are different. So I find that I talk and I feel the same thing. I do think that it's helpful to voice things. There's a big difference in doing it with a person, and I believe that is because, well, for me, it's a big difference because I get the connections in different ways between the different parts of me that come in. But I do think from talking to other mental projectors, there's a certain element of how things get amplified back to you, even in those expressions, right? And if you
Yeah.
can notice, ooh, I went into my head and started to try to make sense of their expression. That can be valuable information in your decision-making process when you notice how you felt in those things.
Mhm.
But the amplification that comes back from other people's definition in your openness, right? Your
Yeah.
openness is gonna amplify their energy in ways that you're gonna start to make sense of it, but it is important that they don't try to steer you and tell you what to do, but sometimes having someone be like, when you say something, make a little bug eye face or whatever, like shock, is helpful in your process because you can feel a resistance to, you can
Mhm.
feel a questioning in ways that make you go deeper. So I really think that the soundboarding process for any projector is super valuable. And it's really important when you're working with someone like a therapist, coach, or anybody who's in a position to help guide you, give you advice, that they allow you to do that. I worked with a coach one time who, in the middle of a hot seat call, and she was human design informed, but she had an undefined root, a bunch of hands up in the other people wait, right? Zoom hands are up. So she would feel this pressure that I got to get to everybody. And so in the process of me soundboarding whatever we were talking about, she's like, just yes or no, Kathy.
Oh,
I was
ouch.
like,
That's painful.
I was like, I literally just said to her, I'm not a generator. And that was interesting because as painful as it was such a really important thing for me to know and acknowledge that, oh, this person does not recognize me for who I am. This
Right.
person is bothered by the very way that I process.
Right.
She can be a wonderful coach for other people,
Right.
very valuable person, but
Right.
she is not the right person for me because she doesn't see me and what I need, even
Right.
when I'm in a place. The more I had worked with her, the more I was getting like this bitterness, this indecisiveness.
Mhm.
Feeling that scene, so it probably was getting worse. Probably was really awful to sit there and try to coach me because I couldn't find my groove. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the mental projector, that's all you got, right? This is your way of doing it. Whereas I've got my emotional wave, which,
Mhm.
the will with the whatever. So
Yeah. I think being a therapist helped me in that part of, going through grad school and then doing, seeing people on campus and being recorded and things like that. And then also my forensic interviewing, you're in the forensic interviewing, you're interviewing in a specific way to get the details of a crime that's been committed. So you cannot lead, you have to get comfortable. So both of my main careers taught me to be comfortable with silence
Mhm.
and to just sit there until the person said something. So that helped a lot. And then, but I, couldn't apply that to myself very well. So yeah, being discerning and finding the people that are really good at holding that space. Um, I feel like for me has been hard to find. I haven't actively looked either, but I want to catch what you said about the openness and other people's definition. I learned pretty quickly that when my energy was low, it's frequently low. And the consistently inconsistent thing I've learned to leverage. When I have energy, I will produce to have like a bucket of content and things that I can use for when I can barely get around. But I learned early on that if I went to I could leverage that energy and the plugging in of other people's defined spaces by going to a coffee shop. If I needed to get some work done, I just couldn't get myself going. I would just pack up, drive into town, go to a coffee shop, and leverage that energy. And then I would have a lot of energy, and I could sit there for a couple of hours and knock out a lot of work. I feel like projectors are highly efficient, that give us a 2 or 3 hour chunk of time and we can generate out 8 hours worth of work with no problem. So it is important to leverage that, I think, for anybody with open space.
Yeah. So you were working for Karen doing what?
I was the marketing manager and the project manager. So all the projects in the company, I was tracking, assigning, and all, monitoring all the pieces and the timelines. And then I did the SEO, running reports for what was performing, what wasn't performing. I also worked on the websites. I actually got hired to work on the websites, all of them for Grace Point, for quantum alignment system. So
Grace Point
lots of tech,
just for people.
lots of tech stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So you did that until when?
April of this year.
April of this year of 2025. Yeah. Someone could be listening to this in 2035, right?
Yeah. I always recommend podcasts to projectors because you can produce when you have the energy. It's out there. People can find you. You're not pushing to be recognized. Yeah. You're just putting your wisdom out in the world. When people find it, they find it. You don't have to worry about it.
When I first started with the podcast, it's so easy with human design to get in your head about things they tell you you should or shouldn't do or whatever. I would have people who would say to me, well, how are you going to do a podcast? You're a projector. You're going to interview people. How are you going to invite people? You're going to invite a manifestor. What are you going to do? And it was funny to think about that because at first, especially when I was first starting out, because the podcast just sort of happened, and I've talked about that in other ways. I was doing these conversations in my Intuitive Human Design Facebook group. I was already having these conversations, and people started to refer to them as podcasts. And I'm like, it's not a podcast. It's just my little Sunday story hour, or whatever. Where I was chatting with people about their human design story, and it just
natural to you.
It was very natural. It was people initially that I had that invitation into relationship with, that we were talking. But then it started to grow. It became a real podcast, and I still remember, I don't remember even who it was, but the first time I invited somebody that I really thought of as a big deal. Oh, you know what? It was Karen. I remember because Karen Curry Parker, I think I had somebody cancel. Back then I was still doing weekly. I was really like, I got to be consistent, use my willpower, get it in. Somebody canceled for whatever reason, and I needed to find a guest. I asked her if she knew of anybody. I was reaching out to ask her if she knew of anybody. I thought, okay, is that weird for me to ask her that and not ask her to be on it? There had been this part of me that always was like, who am I? I can't ask her to be on it. And I said, right. So I asked her if she would want to be on it or if she knew somebody else who would be on it. I'd love to interview her in the future. Yeah. She was like, I was hoping you would ask. And I was like, what?
She's so generous.
Right? Yeah. So like in my head, I'd been, I can't ask her. I'm a projector. She needs to say, she knows I have a podcast because I was in her community on calls. There was a part of me that was like, she should offer. As you get into these things, we forget there's so many aspects to all of our chart. Yeah. To why people behave the way they are in the whole hierarchy of stuff. My thing has always been, if I am going to invite someone to be on my podcast, it matters to me whether or not they say yes.
Exactly.
I'm not going to ask them.
Yes.
If I need the recognition from them saying yes, then it's not in alignment for me to ask them. So That's how I've seen it. I also felt it really aligns with what you're talking about with play. Because for me, it didn't ever feel like work. It was always fun. Yeah. And even as I invested money in making the podcast, I would say, I am having so much fun and learning so much and talking to these people. I couldn't talk to them for the amount of money I'm spending to make this, right? Some of these people, I talked to Chetan Parkin for hours. You know what that would cost?
Oh, wow. Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So that whole thing. And then I also wanted to just say the thing you were talking about not knowing how to play, how important it is for projectors, really speaks to my heart. Because I had a situation back in August where I just kind of playfully decided I was going to do this shuffle dance thing. I don't know. Did I tell you about that? I might.
No, but I know what that is. That's an awesome thing to do.
I decided I was going to teach myself how to shuffle dance to get myself in shape. And so I started putting it out on Instagram every day to kind of keep me on track, keep me focused, make it a little bit more fun. And I really didn't expect anything of it, but I was having fun. I was trying to do all these things and I got hurt. I was trying to like talk my way through the next phase of how do I continue to stay on task with my goal and the whole process. I continue to this day. It's months later. I haven't been shuffle dancing because I got injured. I'll go back to it. But I'm doing some other things now. I get more followers from that than anything. I've gained like 6,000 followers from that shuffle challenge I did.
Awesome.
So, but it was because I was playing, and projectors when we play were magnetic.
The magnetism, I've tested this myself just because I love running experiments. I treat my life as though I'm a social scientist. I love to test things out. And that magnetism sparkle effect from play, if we think of the energy field, we notice people or we don't notice them, we definitely get noticed when we're sparkling like that. It's just being surrounded. To me, it feels like being surrounded by as if someone threw glitter up in the air. People see me. And then the opposite times are when I'm walking or shopping. I've had people literally run into me. I know that's when I'm really out of alignment. Am I a ghost? 5 people have just run into me. I'm not even here. And that, when I see that happening in my environment, I know that doesn't happen anymore because I do a better job of daily practices that keep me on track. But in the beginning, that was one of the things I noticed, like, oh, I literally am invisible. And then when I would play, I would notice people are looking at me. And then I had to deal with the nervous system reaction of people looking at me. So I had to get,
speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So I didn't, from my childhood experiences, people looking at me was not a safe thing. I didn't want to be noticed. I did my best to stay under the radar and to not get noticed, be invisible. So then when this made dating difficult too, if men noticed me, I became alarmed by that. And then I noticed that when I was in that gold glitter sparkle space, clients started noticing me. My body didn't know the difference between who's who and what's what. My body would still react in a pushback way. Like, oh, people are noticing me. Part of me is, yay, please come play with me. Join my group. Let's do some stuff together. The other part was, this is dangerous. I always say your nervous system reacts to anything that's different because different equals deadly to the deepest parts of those primal places in us. It's a deadly thing. It's a threat. And it doesn't make sense. It does make sense to that part of your body. So now I am well versed enough with my own energy field that I'm even undoing that this year when people are noticing the books or start reaching out for books. I'm coaching myself still through it's okay that people notice you. It's actually not threatening. There's still like little vestiges of that happening, but that's the advantage of human design to me at the bottom line is it's the best tool for embodiment that I've ever found. The whole line of it's your body that's supposed to be making the decisions was the exact opposite of everything I had learned, been taught. And it drove me deeper into when I was a therapist, I specialized in trauma and addiction. So I was using nervous system stuff, but I wasn't applying it very well to myself because I wasn't aware there was so much going on underneath the level of my awareness. I think that's a piece of my human design that I have to watch out for because I can concentrate everything up here. My thoughts, my ideas, concepts, guided journeys, things that are not deeply body related. So it has given me the gift of, if I want to be successful in these things I want to do, then I have to reverse and go deeper into the body and, oh, wow, that sucks. That's uncomfortable. that is like something that doesn't make sense, also makes sense. It's been this long journey of embodying myself within myself, basically benefiting from what I've been helping other people do for a really long time.
Yeah. I'm sitting here listening to you, and it's always interesting to me when I observe how my body responds to different people I interact with.
Yeah.
And, with you, with that defined head and ajna,
Mhm.
that really amplifies in me. I notice um, that I get in my head more. That can sometimes get me distracted from what you're
Mhm.
saying. Uh,
Mhm.
but just being aware of that and not, trying to beat myself up for it. But one of the things that I kept realizing is you have this gate 44 conscious sun, which, right, this
Mhm.
gate 44, we just had that energy last week because it was your birthday last week. So happy
Right.
belated birthday. I know I
Thank you.
talked to you right around your birthday, didn't I? I talked to
Mhm.
you like the
Yeah.
day before or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but so I also have a dear friend who is across of the four ways with the conscious sun in gate 44.
Oh,
And hers is also on an undefined spleen. She's also done a lot of trauma work with people.
just
I think I said she's also a psychic
yeah.
medium.
Yeah.
And this recognizing the patterns of the past element in this energy is so strong. When you have something like my conscious sun is also on an undefined center, I know that that creates such an intense amplification of that energy so many times when it can connect. I think the cross of the four ways is a really interesting cross. I have Jess Tilley, who I do the transit talks with, and I do a lot of stuff collaboration with her. She has a different variation of it. I
Yeah.
believe her 44, 24 are on the design side, if I'm remembering right.
My
Um,
granddaughters
e
have that one too.
yeah, either that because I think her conscious sun is the 19, if I'm remembering
Mm.
right. Um, but so the way that I understand that cross, I didn't know this until I think it was Jess who told me this, that the cross of the four ways is those four gates are the gates that in the mandala, which for those listening, the mandala is if you take all the gates, you put them into like the astrological wheel, the order that they go in when they go around. So the four gates in the cross of the four ways are the gates prior to the four directional gates of the Sphinx. So we're in the cross of the Sphinx energy next after this cross. These are the gates that happen right before a directional gate, each one of them. They say that this is a gate that comes into that this is a cross, someone with this cross comes into someone's life when you're about to change directions or you need to
Oh,
change directions. And there's this pivotal thing that
yeah.
happens with people. I think when you have that gate 44, the recognizing the patterns of the past on that undefined spleen in combination with that, that feels really intense to me just intuitively. It
It
feels
is.
like wait, I'm going to back up from that whole thing I just said. I'd love to know your thoughts on that, but I'd also love to know how you realized you had these gifts, which I can see where this all is in your chart in a way.
Mhm.
But when did you realize you were a psychic medium and how did you start to utilize that for your
Okay.
good?
Um, what you just said is really powerful because that is I thought I must be a manifester for a long time because I was like, but I come in the connection with people, they either want to get really close to me or they want to run very far away. And it's like my energy offers people an opportunity to turn 180 degrees and go do something completely different. And some people really want to do that, and they have done it. A lot of people I've worked with are now living completely different lives, but not everybody wants to do that. Um, and that I had to make peace with. Some people are just not ready to change and not take it personal because I used to take it very personal. So, but the psychic gift thing is I grew up in a family that acknowledged psychic gifts, but also was very, very Christian. And so it was like talked about, but not talked about, understood, but you you shouldn't really maybe talk about it, and you definitely shouldn't be using it. Like, okay, it happens, but okay, just blah, blah. And then, but I wanted nothing to do with any of it because I had that thing as a kid where I just wanted to blend in. And I have a chart that I can't blend in if I tried. Like, there's no way I'm going to get to blend in. But even as a little kid, I just wanted to be like normal. I wanted the same lunch as everybody else. I wanted the same clothes as everybody else. I did not want to be special or stand out from the crowd at all. So I didn't want anything to do with anything. And I would read magic books and sci-fi and fantasy and, so it was always there. But as a teenager, with my first job as an EMT, being an emergency medical technician in a very large city, I was working in a county. I was working in Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth, Texas, and all the cities around. And part of our job was to go pick up dead people if the morgue was full or they couldn't go to the scene and transport it to the funeral home or to the morgue. We did that. And on my very first shift, and this is in the book actually, my very first shift, I was aware of the soul being next to the body in various states of processing, shock, or, oh my goodness, like stunned or confused or at peace. But I was very aware of that. Like I could really feel it's always on my left side as if someone's standing behind my left shoulder. And I wanted nothing to do with that either. Like it was very upsetting to me. I hated it. And I had started my metaphysical journey at 16. My mom would drag me off to chakra classes in Dallas and mind to mind healing and all this stuff at 16. So it's like deliberately doing things to open those pathways but not making the connection as barely 18-year-old that opening those pathways meant this too. And I didn't want that too. And so I didn't tell anybody, and I started having nightmares and really coming apart. And the job was extremely demanding. And finally told my mom about it. And she was like, well, call on the angels to help, like call Archangel Michael or whoever you feel drawn to. Because I'd read a lot about angels. And so I did that. That made me feel better. And then she was, you can just turn it off. You can just refuse to participate. And that's what I did. So I was, I don't want to participate in this. I don't want anything to do with this. It's going to make me different. Makes me weird. I don't know how to handle it. And I just shut it down. And that came back upon me when I moved to Georgia. I was living out in the woods. I live streamed every day for a solid year. And it had been happening more and more. I'd had a forest experience in 2003, just all these series of events. And it just I sort of gave up. I was like 52. I was, okay, fine, whatever. But you can't wake me up. You can't be in the bathroom. If I'm taking a shower, none of you can be in here. Don't you dare wake me up in the middle of the night. So then Did they listen? Yeah. They will. Like if you have, I tell people I teach this now. I have a workshop in January or a course in January when we go through it. But I teach people, if you have boundary trouble in real life with real people, you will also have boundary trouble with the dead. When you tell them to leave, they are to leave. But if you struggle go ahead.
Oh, does that work both ways? Like you have trouble letting people in, will you have trouble letting spirits in?
I think so. It was true for me.
Yeah.
I think it because it's the receiving of an energy that's different. And if your nervous system perceives that as different equals deadly, then it's just not going to let that in. And that's perceptual, right? Like we're in the soup of it. We imagine our compartmentalized boxes, but we do need those to stay sane in the human experience. So I
Yeah.
let that come back on track, got my nervous system used to the difference and feeling the difference, did some mentorship with a man that I really respect, took some classes just for the heck of it. And now it's there now when I want it to be. And also if I don't want to be aware of it, I'm not.
You know, you said you did some work with the gene keys, so then I know you're aware of your purpose as far as gene keys goes, is that gate 19, which is this tribal gate with so much sensitivity. So that feels very aligned as well with all of this. So it's interesting to hear how you've been able to turn it on and off, because I know that a lot of people just shut themselves down because they can't.
Yeah.
Or just not even just as far as the feeling of energy, spirits, guides, that sort of thing, but just the feeling of energy out in the world. I know
Absolutely.
a lot of, yeah.
It's a big part of what I teach. I used to teach a money class and I taught the same thing. Like the most important thing to me to get through life when you're ultra sensitive is to stop trying to block things out and develop an inner vocabulary of what sensations are. We can teach ourselves to learn to tolerate and even get very comfortable with the sensation of something different. So when money's coming into people who aren't used to money, they'll shut it down because it's different. Different equals deadly. It sets off that whole chain of events. Spirits come in, that's different. A new love comes in, that's different. Something changes at work. The world is going through the things, it's different. We're going to die. There's all these panic responses that happen. But we can take control of that. Sit with those things and learn safety. Safety is a feeling we learn to give ourselves through, like, oh, this is the energy signature of Kathy. She feels this. This is the energy signature of Karen. She feels like this. This is this client. This is this granddaughter. This is this piece of woods feels this. And understanding that it's just a language. What the analogy I use is when you're swimming in a river, there's all these different temperatures and currents in a river. The top of the water is warm. The deepest parts are cold. Sometimes the water's running fast. Sometimes it's very, very slow. It's all the same river. It's all the same thing. It's just getting comfortable with the whole continuum of sensations that the body experiences because it's so wildly perceptive to energy in the same way that we're very perceptive to sound.
Yeah. One of the ways that I explain it, especially when it comes to emotional energy that we pick up, because that's the biggest thing. People are like, yeah, that person's got feelings. They've got feelings, and I don't.
Yeah.
I used to think it was just a defined solar plexus, undefined solar plexus dynamic, but I've noticed that it happens in every kind of a thing, especially the more when you care about someone and they're feeling a way, their opinion matters. That can come up in how you feel about who you are. It can come up anywhere you have this. So I like to use the analogy of the ocean, when the waves of the ocean. And if you are feeling a wave of the ocean, you are out there with your little boogie board and all of a sudden a big wave is coming. No, I don't want the wave. You stick the boogie board in front of your face. What's going to happen? You're going to get smacked in the face. You've got to just let it pass through you. And maybe you breach, you turn sideways. So it's not as much, not hitting as hard or whatever, but you're just letting it pass.
Yeah.
But what we resist persists. So the more we try to fight against that energy we're feeling, instead of just being, oh, that's theirs. Let it go. Let it pass. Okay, I got a little wet there, but I'm good. Right?
And I love that you use water too, because water is the element of emotion. It is fluid. It's always changing.
Yeah.
It's impactful, but we get to control the impact of how we experience it and what we make it mean.
Yeah.
And I love the boogie board image. I hadn't thought of that. That's excellent.
You get a broken nose that way, right? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be deadly.
That's great. I love that. Thank you. I'm glad you told me that.
No problem.
Yeah.
So Okay, I want to make sure we get to the path to the book, but I feel like there's probably still more because you did all this work working for Karen in her marketing department, and then you worked with her on some of her books, I know. And
Yeah.
how did all this lead to you? Because you weren't a publisher when all this started, right?
I've
Doing
always
publishing before?
wanted to. I've
Okay.
self-published my own books, but I had one traditional publishing experience and it was awful. And so from then on, I swore, like, never again. I will always
What was awful about
self-publish.
it?
They took control. I didn't understand how much control they had over
Mm.
my book. So I didn't make a penny off that book. There were all these little hidden things in there that meant I got virtually nothing. I think once I got a deposit from Amazon for like 27 cents or something. It was just absurd. And what they did was they jacked the price up so high that it would not sell. And then it took me, I think, 3 years to get the rights back. But by then they had changed their name. They're a very scammy company. But they presented themselves as, well, you don't pay anything. And that's right. I didn't pay anything, but I paid a lot in other ways. And so even though I have all the rights back to that book and I can republish it, I don't have the ISBN number. They do. And I can't get anyone to respond to me to transfer that over. And it was my very first book. So, and I love that book. I will republish it, but it was just like, oh, wow, what a shock. And then there's a guy, Timber Hawkeye, who wrote the book Buddhist Boot Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I had got the opportunity to spend the evening with him for several hours when he was on book tour and staying at a friend of mine's house. And we talked for hours about how, and he had started a publishing company similar to mine, where we will, for the same reason, his book, Buddhist Boot Camp, was published under Penguin or somebody, one of the big three. And he completely lost control of it. And it went into multiple countries under multiple translations. The meaning got lost and distorted, and he couldn't do anything about it. And so just that feeling of your intention being snatched away like that was just overwhelming. So I've always wanted a publishing company. I formed it in 2023, but it just sat there. I wasn't doing anything with it, looking at branding colors, just sort of picking away at it. And then I figured out that I had been ghostwriting for people I'd worked for forever. And I didn't know that thing had a name. And so when I found out, oh, ghostwriting's a thing, like I can do that. And it was like, oh, I've been doing that in multiple different jobs for people I'd worked with. Even as a therapist, I was ghostwriting for people. So then I was like, wait a minute, I can totally do this. What I want is, if there's a difference in writing, publishing. Writing is difficult in its own ways. Publishing is more difficult in its own ways. And I don't think people should have to learn the publishing industry to have their book in the world. I think every voice matters. The message held within every gate of your defined gates, that's your whole lifelong archetypes. So let's take that, tailor what you're trying to say with respect to those archetypes and make it easier. Let's make writing easier. It's never going to be easy because it's a personal growth. It's spiritual development. It puts you through the ringer. I want to support people in doing that. I like making it safe. Like, yeah, you don't want to work on it. Totally normal. Absolutely normal. Let's figure out how to move you through it. What's scaring you about it? What's under the procrastination? Let's pull all this stuff in and keep you writing. Parallel to that, I know how to develop the marketing campaign, to leverage SEO, to get the book description, the categories to increase the likelihood that you'll go to number one. We just released a book on the 6th, which is my first like stranger book, a book I've helped with the woman I didn't know before. Okay. Hers is a near-death experience. She didn't really want to promote the Kindle version because she has some things she wants to do with the print copy. So without even promoting it, though, the categories were good enough that it got up to 6. and it stayed in the top 10 for a week. I was like, that made me happy because we didn't market it other than just some social media posts. So the feeling I get when I can help someone gather all their knowledge, consolidate it, match it with their heart's desire, match it what their throat naturally wants to say, what's naturally easiest for it to say, get that out in the world. I can't think of anything better than that. And then my daughter is the DeVos part of Wolf DeVos. She's an editor. She has a master's in literacy. She's a public school teacher in the with ASD students who are absolutely brilliant but need help with the literacy pieces. So we both struggled in our adolescence, and we want to fund the big largest goal is we really want to fund getting a hold of those sensitive kids, get their voice out there. To circle back to my teenage years, we're all psychic, that's my belief, but we don't have teachers around like we used to in ancient times past, where someone would have said, oh, that kid got a little extra psychic stuff going on, let's help them manage it so it doesn't scare them and they don't have to shut it down. The same thing with the voice. Like, a lot of kids have a voice, but they are not masterful in how they leverage it, how they package it, when the timing piece of when does it need to be invited, where and how, and let's pull all those pieces together, get all the voices out in the world, because the dominant voices in the world are why we are where we are right now. I can't do a whole lot about where we are, but what I can do is help grab that information, funnel it, create safety for this person, get it out there where it can actually be seen, contribute to the collective balancing act. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I want to back up to the phrase you said. You said what the throat wants to say. And I feel like that has something to do with your book. And so
it does. Yeah.
I wondered if you could elaborate on what you mean. I'm assuming you're talking about the throat gates or the definition of the throat. So can you just give us like a short, because we don't have a ton of time left. So
right. Yeah.
A short premise of what your book is about and how that relates.
Yeah. So Designed to Captivate, Find Your Authentic Voice Through Human Design is a deep focus on the throat center where everything manifests through. We speak our world into existence. And when we're not aware of the energies that we're speaking and the energies that, it's almost more important, the energies that we're not speaking, the things that we don't let ourselves say, the things that we're afraid to say, all of that energy, I perceive it when I'm talking to someone who's holding a lot as a literal like piece of concrete stuck in their throat. Like, it feels like concrete-y to me, or a bundle of rocks or a rocks. It just feels very chunky. And I feel myself wanting to be, just to be it. And I think when, so our defined voices in the throat are the ones we have all the time, forever. We can, those are the ones we're naturally using. But if we've been raised with our undefined gates being plugged in by parents, caretakers, siblings, whatever, then we may be trying to speak in ways that aren't natural to us. They're natural to the people that we were raised with. So I want to help people figure out, like, if you look at your chart and this gate is defined, it's going to look this. And probably if you look at your life, you're already doing that. But let's also look at the undefined spots. See, are you trying to speak all the time from a place that's not naturally yours? This may be why you're struggling. This may be why the book isn't working, or why you can't get your speech together, why you can't communicate very well. You're trying to speak from conditioning. Does that make sense?
That's so interesting. You said the people you were raised with, but I have been married. It'll be 30 years in February.
Well, yeah.
And it was only within the last few years that I realized how heavily heavily conditioned I have been by my husband's channel 1762, connecting the ajna to the throat. I still have to catch myself because the dialogues that come out, even, just internally,
Right. Yeah.
internal dialogues that are what he's going to say, how he's going to respond, what he's going to think about whatever it is that I am doing, thinking about,
It's a
is
great
almost
point.
constant. It's like, it's funny because our daughter, who's a 25-year-old manifester, also with a completely open ajna, she's a manifester, so clearly her throat is defined. But we both are always what Dad's going to say. Like, even if
Yeah.
we're not saying it, we're always thinking about it. Of course, he's the only defined sacral in the house, too. So,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
any kind of conditioning. So when people are struggling to write or speak or get things going, or even to manifest things, I think it's critical that we look at what are you speaking into existence and what are you not speaking into existence? What do you need to say that you are not saying, and how is that impacting you?
So your throat is defined by the channel of structuring, the 4323, which is lovingly referred to as the genius to freak channel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I feel like this book is going to be one of those things, especially, everything as you're talking here, I'm thinking, okay, we could just title this, Tell Me You're a 3-5 Without Telling Me You're a 3-5. And then,
Exactly.
because I'm hearing you talk about all these different jobs you've had, right?
Oh, yeah.
And all these different places you've lived.
Yeah.
It's like, but you learned so many different things through that whole
Yeah.
process. So I'm excited to see what your genius to freak structures out of all of this. When do you expect the book to be released?
It's available for pre-order now on Amazon. It will release on December 6th.
Ooh, so in time for the holidays.
Yeah, I have to put my books up for pre-order or I won't write them. I'll just drift. And so when I put a hard deadline, then I can generate the motivation to get it done.
The pressure.
The pressure. Yeah, I need the pressure.
Work with that pressure. Interesting. So now if people want to connect with you, it would be, let's say they can work with you to publish a book. You can help them write a book. You're doing this thing in January that you said was a class on mediumship, or what was that?
Psychic mediumship. Yeah, it's using somatic journaling, getting in the body to get comfortable with your psychic gifts. Yes.
Okay. So best way to connect with you then would be?
If people, so planethumandesign.com is where all the human design stuff is, and that's the fastest way to book a reading. And I'm sure your readings are like this too. We go really in depth with people, and I like to start there. But also people can just book a 15-minute time to talk at talktolaurammichelle.com. And Michelle has 2 L's in it, and it's an A-U, Laura, Laura, MICHELLE.com, talktolaurammichelle.com. That's just a 15-minute spot I keep open to people who just want to talk to me. And I like talking to people much better than messaging or going back and forth by email. So anyone wants to talk to me, they're welcome.
Well, that makes sense that you would like to talk to people because one, you've got this 4323 is this acoustic panel, but also feeling all that stuff, right? Feeling the vibrations of things. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I feel like we probably didn't even scratch the surface of your 3-5 stories. I would love to maybe sometime hear about the forensic FBI stuff and all of that, but we're limited by the constraints of time and space. So I want to just say thanks, and I would like to thank you for sharing this time with us.
Thank you for having me. It was such a cool invitation to get.
Awesome. So peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Real Human Design Stories. I hope these stories help you see how human design can reframe not only your own story, but also the stories you tell yourself about your relationships. If you're ready to tell a more empowered story about who you came here to be, I invite you to explore ways to work with me directly at captivate.com. Supporting this podcast is easy. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star rating, like, comment, share with your friends. This helps the podcast grow the most. You can also become a contributing sponsor for as little as 99 cents a month. Details are available at realhumandesignstories.com. Thanks again for being here. Peace out, everybody.